Just before that, I called the main guy and I was like, as the sales guy, and I said, I hope this speaks volume. As the sales guy, I'm begging you, don't go ahead with this.
Yeah, wow.
And he was like, appreciate your honesty. I still want to do it. And I was like, oh.
Killer when I was head of marketing for a restaurant chain, and I inherited this deal that they would do on a Wednesday night and sell 25-cent chicken wings. And
That's cheap.
I hated
that's a
it
good
the
deal.
whole time. I hated it the whole time.
Why is that?
Oh, why did I hate it?
Yeah. Both teams didn't like each other. They got angry. It turned sour.
That's how it ends. Yep.
Correct. And not only that, the opportunity cost was astronomical.
These people tended to complain, right? So not only are you bringing in unprofitable customers, social media just blew up all the time with this one thing.
And they were like, can we just pay for the third section? And I was like, well, no, because technically it's a nightmare for us. You can't go to Netflix and go, I just want to watch the horror movies. Like, you can't pick and choose. You need to buy the thing or not. Really, marketing, everyone knows how to do marketing as good as you, which is like...
No, they're better. They're better.
They're better, right?
Yeah,
right.
They're better.
No,
You're just the executor, mate.
100%.
Hello, Alex. How you doing today?
Jack, good. Glad to be back.
I'm glad to be speaking to you. Let's talk.
Let's do it. What's on the agenda?
The agenda for today. How bad customers are actually losing you money.
Yes.
So they're not just ripping your soul. They're not just stomping on your feelings. They're actually losing you money.
They're robbing you emotionally, mentally, and financially.
Yes. Yes. Oh, that's a good one.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. I felt that.
I felt it
that.
too. Yeah. I was like, oh, bad memories. Bad memories.
I think everyone's been there, right? Even those people have probably been there that have done that to us.
Maybe they deserve to be there.
Maybe they do. And maybe I deserve to be done for it too. So, no, I agree. I think this one is, let's go into, to frame this, I think it's people who can be desperate at certain times, we know, and it's, we all need new business. We all need growth, yes. But there's the seduction of, it's a bad customer, it's not the right fit, it feels bad, it's awkward, they're rude. But then there's that like, should we do it? And I can say with absolute faith, maybe not every single time, but 99% of the time, it's ended poorly for everyone. They've had a bad experience. We've had a bad experience. And not only emotionally, like you were saying, financially, we end up opportunity cost and a lot of stuff we'll dive into. So, but I'm keen to hear you. I know you got a story for this. I want to hear it.
Oh, I've got lots of stories for this one. This one's my specialty. But I'm a bad customer sometimes.
Okay.
I stand on my high horse and get annoyed with customers of mine that annoy me, which doesn't happen that often these days because I'm better at picking, but it has happened throughout my career.
And they might be listening.
Yeah. Well, they might be. Hey, don't like you, but keep paying your bills.
Sorry to do that to
you. So I was a member of WeWork for a long time.
Okay.
And I paid about $550 a month for a dedicated desk membership.
Okay.
And
WeWork, for those listening, is a co-working space.
Co-working space, yes. I just assumed everyone would know that.
Yeah.
Oh, I shouldn't assume.
They should.
Yes. But when I was there, sometimes I would drink a fair bit of beer. So part of the membership was that you could drink 4 days a week. And they had periods of time where they put the beer taps on. And it was a great way to invite people in, prospects, clients, this type of thing, and meet them. Like, it was beautiful view and, beers are on me and come in and we can chat, or friends would come in as well. I was pretty popular while I was a member of WeWork amongst my friends. So, of me and my friends and my prospects, I would often get through enough beer in a month that it would cost them more in beer provided to me.
Perfect.
Let alone, all the other costs that I was costing them.
There's some financial person in their company is looking at you as an outlier and been like, we're losing money on Jack, but everyone else under this line is okay.
Yeah. So, I just wanted to point that out and say I'm not going to stand on holy ground. Sometimes I'm the one losing someone money. So yes, unprofitable customer for WeWork, certainly. I like being there, obviously. I was liked by other people for being there. Yeah,
good. Well, there's win-wins in other ones there. And I always think it comes back to the whole win-win versus win-lose or lose-lose, right? And I think both a seller and a buyer, the best ones are the people who search for a win-win. And we tend to be Jekyll and Hyde sometimes. Like, I think sometimes, I've worked with people and they go, I'm sick of people emailing me and this guy was a dickhead and the customer service was terrible. And then 5 seconds later, they're doing the same thing to their own customer base and forcing them to do stuff. And you're like, you are very hypocritical. Like, if you realize that these engagements are it's a win-win for both. And if you search something that wins for you and for them, everyone's happy and it's sustainable. If you search for a situation where you win and they lose, clearly they're not going to stick around. And then vice versa. If you search a situation where you lose and they win, it's also not sustainable. So like, I think my favorite customers and people are ones who go into the situation going, how can this work for everyone? This is what I want. What do you want? Price or whatever it is. And yeah, that's so much more sustainable.
Yeah. Is this a good fit?
Yes, that's
Are
right.
we compatible? Yes.
And it's more than just, is it as an example, I'll use a story of previous SaaS startup, B2B, and it was with a customer who was super, like very lovely people. And this is what makes it hard too, right? They were so nice. And we did the demo, all the usual rigmarole, went through it all. And basically we got to the other side and they were like, oh, I can do this and this. And with each question, I was sort of going, oh, this is not right. Like they want this thing that looks like this, but we're over here and we're not going in that direction. But they were so like, we love what you do. We want to be involved. And I was like, what? And my boss at the time was like, I think we should. And I was like, it feels weird. It doesn't feel right. But their expectations though weren't bad, but they were pre-COVID and they were like, every meeting we want to do in person. So that was a pain in the bum to like drive over there and do a 1 hour meeting. It was half a day by the end of it. And then with each one that went through, we got the basically the system that we're selling was 3 different sections to it. And of the 3 sections, they were like, we want to use the 3rd section. And they were like, can we just pay for the 3rd section? And I was like, well, no, because technically it's a nightmare for us. And you can't go to Netflix and go, I just want to watch the horror movies. Like you can't pick and choose. You need to buy the thing or not, because then it makes it hard to repeat sell. So I was like, no, and it got worse and worse. And I said, maybe you could use it in a way and just not look at the other pieces. Anyway, we kept trying to fit something that just did not fit. And by the end, they signed the agreement. And I called them the night before and said, like not the night before, but prior to that. And I said, hey guys, like I've got some hesitations. I'm worried about these couple of things, not for us, but for like all of us. If it's the wrong fit, it's going to take you more time. It's going to take us more time. It's going to take us cost and effort. And this was not an expensive product. This wasn't 20 grand a month. I'm talking $400 or $500 a month. So you add that into a meeting, 2 people in a meeting, that's 2 to 3 meetings and that budget's gone.
Yep.
And so of course what happened is exactly what we thought was going to happen. They, had questions 3 or 4 times a day. We were on the phone all the time. We would constantly kind of trying to configure it from the back end, do workarounds. And because I think they paid up front like for 6 to 12 months, so we're sort of locked into it. And then it got to a point where I was going to say to them, like, guys, I'll give you the money back. In all seriousness, you can have the money back. We're sorry about this. What we feared was happened did sort of happen. But then by the end, stubbornness on all behalves, both teams didn't like each other. They got angry. It turned sour.
That's how it ends. Yep.
Correct. And not only that, the opportunity cost was astronomical. Other customers started suffering because their time was wasted. Prospecting and growth stuff couldn't put time towards it. It just, everything went to shit. And when you've got an ill fit area where their expectations aren't aligned to your expectations, it always ends badly.
Yes, always.
Always.
Yes.
And if you're a buyer, try to have some humility and be open about it and stop forcing what you want and think about the win-win. And if you're a seller, I see the seduction. Learning lessons, maybe if you're really early on, you don't know, learn it. But if you don't think it's a good fit, do not go ahead. I cannot say that enough. Stop forcing things that don't fit.
Oh yeah, yes, and it's always the same. It's always the same story. When you're not compatible, when the expectations don't align. It triggered so many thoughts for me because I went back to all the things I'm thinking. Yep, that ended badly. That ended badly. That ended badly. It's the same story every time.
Trust your gut.
Yeah, but I mean, look, and I've had situations where because I do consulting or marketing coaching, I've had clients who it can merge into a therapy type thing which I don't mind if you're going to pay for it still. Like I'm not going to do that for free. And I've had a client in the past who, I went to bill him for the work that was done, and basically he didn't want to pay for the therapy, let's call it the therapy element of it, because the part where he just kept talking and it's like, well, and the expectation was that if you want to talk to me, you have to pay for that time.
Absolutely.
And that was really actually hurtful to me because it's like, that's not really my job or role, but I was just listened. Like I didn't do anything, but I just listened. And now you don't want to pay for that.
And also not respecting that that's your time. Whether you're doing something technical or not, you get paid by the hour. Yeah. So that's an opportunity that you could have been doing sort of elsewhere.
Yes. And it also, I'm someone who, and a lot of marketers I think are the same, when something doesn't go well like that, it does bother me a lot and hurts me a bit. And so, this wasn't a big project. And in the time it took me kind of to bounce back from that, I lost the opportunity cost of that, whatever I got paid.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. Like, because it affected me,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a squabble over a tiny bit of money. Like, but
it always is. It's always over something really insignificant, like something small. And I think that's the whole, like, not just the scope of work, like you're saying, you said the expectations, but I think my, on more of a how-to or recommendation is, I think being as openly honest as you can, and like, you don't want to be rude or anything, but I think I've done ones that's always worked out well when if I'm fearing something or if I'm like, this doesn't feel right, I feel this is going to end badly, I call them up and I just tell it to them, say, hey guys, like, this is what's happening. It feels like it's getting a bit much. I did one the other day where it's like, I was doing more and more work and I'm happy to do more work, but then the bill increases. And before I send them any bill and just going, hey guys, like, just so you know, happy to keep doing this, but the bill's increasing every month because I'm doing more work. One, are you okay with this? Two, am I working on what you want me to sort of work on? And if I'm not, if you've got a budget you're trying to keep it under or something you're trying to work, I'll work towards that. Like, I want to try and help you. And I think seeing things that happen or like flagging things that you're worried about before they happen sounds really silly, but is so important. And to that point there, so if you have those bad clients, and I do it now, I go, hey, like, listen, what you're after I can probably help with, but these 3 things that you've talked about I can't do, and I feel like I may not give you what you want in these areas. And sometimes they go, yeah, that's fine, they're not overly important, like, I'm keen to do it still. Or they go like, yeah, actually that's what you've just said is 90% of what I want. And I go, okay, I'm probably not the right person then. Let me I can introduce you to someone who might, or other examples. And that always ends really well. If I can end it positively and with saying, hey, I just want to help you, and if I can't help you, I'll put you in the right direction, it always ends well. And seems to come back, like references and referrals and those sorts of things. There was one just off the back of that too. There was one with another large enterprise software company, and this was quite a high ticket item. And I told you this the other day of around it's I was a sales, my role was enterprise sales at the time, and I was just starting out, and it was a company that, for the background, it was software to help manage assets. And when I say assets, I'm talking mine sites, power utility companies, councils, manufacturers, big sort of buildings and systems. And the software was for the asset, it contained the assets data. Now there's services who wanted to do work on those assets, and they sort of interacted with the system, but it wasn't their system. And there were these service providers that said like, oh yeah, would love to buy it. And I said, well, it's not a good fit. It's not. What you want is part of this, and you can get access with the customer. If you refer us to the customer, we can work with you. But it's not going to work well. Like, it's not going to do what you want to do. It's going to cause a sort of issue. Anyway, they were very determined, and they were very clear that, all that being said, they still wanted it, and they worked really hard. And I remember they kept progressing, and the red flags kept getting more and more and more. And of course, the team who wasn't privy to a lot of this on the outskirts were like, why are you sabotaging this deal? This is a big deal. Stop. And I was like, God, I'm telling you from a product marketing, all perspective, it's going to kill us. And then again, just before that, I called the main guy, and I was like, as the sales guy, and I said, I hope this speaks volume. As the sales guy, I'm begging you, don't go ahead with this.
Wow.
And he was like, appreciate your honesty, I still want to do it. And I was like, oh, okay. When a sales guy calls you and says, don't buy it, you know there's something wrong.
Oh.
And anyway, I said, okay, yep. Anyway, thank the Lord it got delayed. In many years I wasn't there. I think they ended up coming back and talking about I wasn't privy to what happened from there. So I think a twist of fate. They didn't go ahead, thank goodness. But all the areas over time it got undone, where the product team, for example, was like, oh wow, this is what they wanted. Was this? And it got more and more. And I was like, I've been trying to tell everyone this isn't going to work. And I think eventually, they did come back. They did start doing it, and it didn't end well, and it ended quite bad. And there were the same again, many workarounds, many arguments, many complaints. And so, yeah, I ended up still friends with some people in that company as well now too, and they were saying, yeah, it didn't end well. So, if you feel it in your gut and the expectations aren't aligned, if I would say, in that example, if I was the founder or the leader of that area, I would be willing to just go, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Here is the examples of people you should talk to.
Yes.
I'd get as forceful as saying, no, it's going to cost me more effort and time, particularly as a startup where every hour of every day is essential. Don't take on bad stuff. Don't take on bad for clients.
Yes, it can be hard with that psychological element for people. It's like, oh, I need cash flow now. And I understand that. And it's in my experience now, it is something you do have to overcome though, because it is not ever, almost never going to work. It's almost always going to hurt you more, which is hard as well, in the sense that it means you have to then have faith that the right client will come along soon.
Yes.
So, and I get that, and that's hard. We've all experienced that. Like, do I do this? I know it's not quite right, but do I do this for a little bit?
Yep.
Don't.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, just don't.
And if your point before, and you were saying, sometimes you've got to be burnt by an agency to realize when they do and don't work. And maybe the case of these ones, like, I think, you've got to be burnt by something to really understand the lesson at the back of it. So maybe if you do it, if it is very early on, my recommendation, if you're thinking that way, you're not sure, as best as you possibly can, try to de-risk it and have like bailout clauses, or basically everything you fear is going to happen. Have a way that if those things were to happen,
they will happen,
because they will happen. A lot of them will happen. Have a way that it's not going to kill you.
Yes.
Like, have a way you go, oh, we'll do it, and we'll learn out the back of that, and we'll pivot out, or whatever it is. Like, have a way that both sides can pull out if need be. Because there's you can say it over and over again, and some people don't see what you see, and well, that's why you're the expert, right? You should be able to tell them these things. But it is seductive, and I always say this: founders cop a bit of flack about all the things they're doing wrong. It's a hard bloody job. It is an extremely hard job, and you've got a lot of pressure on your head. So I respect why they do those decisions, but as best I can to steer them in the right one and say, let's use that energy and time.
Yes.
Find someone who does.
Yes.
And if we can't, maybe it's the positioning of the product, and there's something fundamentally wrong then. Which, let's figure that out early, but cook ourselves in 2 years' time.
And there's definitely examples of that I can think of from my career. One in particular, when I was head of marketing for a restaurant chain, and I inherited this deal that they would do on a Wednesday night and sell 25-cent chicken wings. And
that's cheap.
I hated it the whole time. Hated it the whole time.
Why is that?
Oh, why did I hate it?
Yeah.
Okay, so on the point of losing money, this isn't profitable, right? This is most of these people who'd come in, because most of them would come in, there was a minimum spend. I think you had to get 5 wings and you had to get a drink. So the minimum thing you could do is come in and get 5 wings. So that's $25 cents, $1.25, plus a bottle of water, which is maybe bringing you up to $4.
Yeah. That's cheap.
But that was common. It was common for people to come in and just spend the absolute minimum I have to spend.
Right.
Which isn't profitable, and that's taking up a table in the restaurant. Let's add on top of that these people tended to complain, right? So not only are you bringing in unprofitable customers, but you're also just social media just blew up all the time with this one thing. And I knew it wasn't as a problem across the brand necessarily, because the complaints about anything else were just minimal. But this, people love to complain about
the 25-cent wings. Specifically.
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Because it's a positioning thing, and it's a mindset thing. If someone approaches something saying, I just want to spend the least amount of money, I don't care about what I'm buying for that money.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, $4 spent is still $4 wasted in 2 hours of your time.
Yep.
It's just don't do it if you don't want it.
I agree.
Don't do it because it's cheap.
Yes.
But yeah, like that was I didn't manage to change that. But I get there's the fear there of, like, we're known for this sort of. If we are to get rid of this or to phase it out, we're going to probably take a little bit of a hit or a perceived hit for a while. It's the same in the restaurant industry with delivery. There's all these restaurants do delivery, and I would always go in and say, get rid of it. Stop doing it. It's rarely profitable. Again, delivery, third parties will take 35%.
Really?
In restaurants, your GP's tight anyway. So to give away most of that in delivery, you have to then bring on someone almost to manage it in the kitchen, because it's just gets so complex. I've been in restaurants in the back, and the kitchen's got like 7 iPads in it, and someone's got to just manage all the delivery providers.
Wow.
You have delivery people then coming into your restaurant and disrupting the dine-in experience. And the dine-in business unit is actually a profitable business unit. Like, it just costs you so much. It costs you so much, and you lose control of the product.
Yeah.
You give the product to someone else and hope that they deliver it.
Yep. You're sort of putting their brand by association, hoping that it they don't mess it up or do the wrong thing.
Well, if it gets cold though, I mean, 20
Mm.
minutes later, like it's cold when it gets to the customer. I mean, there's just all sorts of problems with that. And in that instance, so anyone who has listened to me and has turned it off, the top line comes down, yes, for a while, but the bottom line doesn't change. So that gives you the opportunity to focus on your profitable business units.
Yep.
And I'd say the same thing with the wings example would have happened, was it would have dropped the top line temporarily, but the bottom line wouldn't have changed or would have actually improved.
Interesting. Okay.
So and then you have the opportunity again to build your brand on what it should be.
And that's why I think things like that around, you start getting into the realm of growth testing, like for that example then, right? If someone says, oh, Macca's does a value add meal and they've been doing it for years, the best thing they ever do, can that work for us? Hopefully someone like yourself who's experienced in that area, consult first, you do the theoretical review. Is there evidence to show me, like what they call literature review? Is there evidence showing me that this can work? Yes, there is. Do we have the type of buyers on paper? This could work. Let's run a controlled test. Let's do the chicken wings for 3 to 6 months or whatever that thing is. And our hypothesis is brings people in. We lose 50 cents on the chicken wing deal. We make $1 on the water. And then hopefully their person coming with them doesn't want chicken wings. They buy a burger for $22 or something like that. Hopefully that's the prediction. Let's sort of run it. Let's see what the tests look like. And if over 6 months, either it's going to work, great, keep doing it. It's not going to work, take the lessons down, note it why. Because I promise you there'd be people who come in 6 to 12 months from now or 2 years from now and have that idea and go, we should have 25-cent chicken wings. Why don't we do this? And all you've got is anecdotes to go, oh, well, they didn't really, and it was a bit of and it's instead of going like, hey, we did the test here. This was the margin we made. This was the opportunity cost. And it doesn't be too, especially for smaller companies, it doesn't be too technical. Just document it. And I've got a sheet that I've made. It's like a growth test sheet where it started by people, I think everyone in a company that you find, particularly marketing, everyone knows how to do marketing as good as you, which is like...
No, they're better. They're better.
They're better, right?
Yeah,
right.
They're better.
No,
You're just the executor, mate.
100%. Anything design or subjective, everyone knows how to do it. Yeah. So, but so I used to have, everyone had an idea. So I was like, all right, some of these ideas, get off my high horse for a second. Like some of these ideas are quite good. And I'm not going to say I've the only ones. Like I want to hear them, but let me hear your thinking behind it. Is it a harebrained scheme or is it like, I've thought about this well and had this thing to be like, what's the idea? What's your hypothesis? Why do you think it's going to work? What's it going to cost? How can we test it? And then once a month going, should we test these? And going, we've got time for one of them. Cool, let's do it. This month we're doing this. At the end of the month, what happened? Did it work? Did it not work? It's almost like a sprint for a product. And I think that's super valuable and stops you from chasing positions where you're just going to lose more money all the time. But I think back to the point of this whole one, because I've taken that on a tangent, but bad customers are losing you money. Be willing to, if you feel the gut feeling of like the 25-cent wings or the customer was talking about, if it feels like it's not working, if it feels not right, and if you're just throwing stuff at the wall to hope it sticks, try as best you can. I think one of the best advice you ever heard, and there was one on, again, another Lenny's podcast. I think I give him a lot of plugs on here, but one of his podcasts was a guy who talked about coaching exec leaders in these startups and these tech companies. He said most of the time it's not a technical issue that they've got or a resourcing issue. It's usually an emotional one. It's people who are either self-doubting or, to the point before, they get desperate and panicked. They bring on these bad customers. If you can just calm, relax, what'll happen will happen. Easier said than done. But let's go through the motions and go, hey, this doesn't feel right. I'm going to take these couple of hours a month and I'm going to put them in investment and try to do this thing. I think it's one of the best things you can do. But yeah, it's easier said than done. Don't panic when you've got people knocking at your door and you're taking out mortgages for your company, and it's stressful.
It is, yeah. But I think anticipating the emotional difficulty can help.
Yes.
If you can go, okay, I was expecting this. I do know if I'm under some cash flow pressure and a prospect sitting there but doesn't feel right, like if you can preempt that a bit, then when you're in the situation, I think it's a bit better. So expect it.
Yes.
Like if you expect, it tends to happen when you do need the cash as well, which is unfortunate for a lot of businesses. I don't know why that happens, but yeah, you'll get thrown a couple of prospects at you that are really going to test what you're made of.
Yep.
Like, can you say no now when you really need the cash?
Yeah.
That's a very hard thing to do. But if you anticipate it, you can process it a little bit more before the actual event.
Yep. And I see too around the whole like jump back and listen to our previous episode because about how growth works and you can see it coming. I think goes if you're at a point where you need results in a couple of weeks, I think there's this sort of sentiment there of just accepting that's probably going to happen now. Like when you're that short of a period.
Yep.
If you're looking at like 12 months or 2 years and
Yes.
you panic, like don't panic about that. Relax. Like go through the motions. But if you need to create a miracle out of nowhere, just accept it probably won't happen.
Yes.
And that's not to be pessimistic. That's to help you stop stressing. Don't panic yourself. Don't make silly decisions and regret stuff. Just go like it's not gonna work. Whether I got to manage expectations internally, externally, let's cut. Like I'd see that and go, what are all the things going to happen personally within the business? Have I got to manage the team? I mean, God forbid, there's sometimes people might have to be let go. Like, sadly, instead of rushing, let's see that happening in 2 months' time and try to manage that well, and not cook yourself and freak out. And because as we keep saying, like growth doesn't happen instantly; it's a long process. So set yourself up for the next couple of years of runway as best you can.
I totally agree. It's hard to say no to customers at times or prospects, but do it.
Yep.
If it feels wrong, it is. Trust me. I've seen this so many times. Just say no.
Yep.
Just
if it feels bad, don't take on the customer.
Yep. And look at all the real costs.
That's right.
Yeah, and maybe reflect on some of the real costs.
Yep. And same as goes to hiring people too, I think. Same thing. If you feel awkward in a hiring person, doesn't feel like it's going to be right, don't do it.
Yeah.
Hiring people can be the most costly thing you'll ever do.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome. Another episode discussed, and we have done a good job, I think, of convincing all you lovely people out there why you should not be working with the wrong customers.
Yeah. Or do it and tell us how it goes.
Yeah, or do it and tell us how it goes. Yeah.
Yep.
Write in the comments. Yeah. And we'll berate you about how you didn't listen to us. Okay.
Awesome.
Talk to you soon, Alex.
Thanks, mate.